Hi everyone, welcome to this first call connecting with market building organizations that wish to collaborate with the impact management platform. My name is Gabby and I'm leading on market builders for the impact management platform, and I'm joined by my colleagues Corinne, Joe, Vincent and Zen, who will also be sharing some thoughts today. If we can move to the agenda slide, please. So we'll first spend some time giving you an overview of the impact management platform and how it's evolved, and then followed by a closer look at the market builder network and the methods of engagement. This will then be followed by examples of specific opportunities to engage with market builders. And there'll be a focus on the actions and landscape of impact management, so you can get a sense of what we're doing at the moment, some of the work we're doing. And then finally, there'll be an opportunity for an open discussion. We're going to try and limit the questions until the end, but please, in the meantime, feel free to share any comments in the chat. And of course, if there are any burning clarification questions midway, don't hesitate to raise your hand. I'll hand it over to Joe now. Thanks.
Thanks, Gabby. Hi, everyone. Good to see so many faces on the call today. I just wanted to kick off with a very brief overview of what is the impact management platform, and specifically delving into how the partners together are carrying out their work, but also what are the key points in time that have led to both the launch of the platform and also the continued work programme. As I believe all of us are aware, the impact management platform itself is a collaboration between the leading providers of public good standards and guidance for managing sustainability impacts. And so together they are effectively working to mainstream the practice of impact management across different communities, including sectors, geographies, issue areas, practitioner types, etc. And they're doing that by clarifying what is the meaning and practice of impact management, working towards interoperability across their own content, and looking to fill a broader set of gaps in the market through a coordinated approach, and finally engaging with policy and regulation in order to, I guess, build the collective work from the platform into those broader areas. You'll see on the right here a collection of logos who all themselves make up the platform itself. Within that set of partners is a steering committee of multilateral organizations comprising IFC, UNDP, UN Global Compact, the OECD and UNEP-FI. And within that steering committee, we have two co-chair organizations, OECD and UNEP-FI, and their responsibility is to provide the operational support and resourcing in order to facilitate the work among the partners and carry out the day-to-day efforts. One note on observers: we have a new observer as of earlier in August, that being the IFRS Foundation. And that was an important milestone following the completed consolidation of two former partners into the IFRS Foundation, that being the Climate Disclosure Standards Board and also the Value Reporting Foundation. And we saw it necessary to continue engaging with the IFRS Foundation, most notably since they launched their International Sustainability Standards Board late last year. And so, you know, we hope through continuing working together, we're looking to support clarity among the within the sustainability related disclosure landscape, and also crucially link that back to the broader areas of impact management practice, wider area of disclosure and benchmarking as well. Many of you will be aware that the impact management platform was created as an evolution of the impact management project and the work that facilitated, and it's great to see so many people on the line that I know were directly linked to the work of the IMP. And so we thought we would just to help level set, really provide a very potted history of really what the impact management project was involved in, and crucially, how that builds up to the launch of the impact management platform. So just to start off with, when the project itself came into effect, that was in 2016, which was launched as a time-bound consensus building project to facilitate consensus among practitioners around a set of norms for measuring and therefore managing impact. Those norms were released as a public good on the Impact Management Project's website, and is actually now available through the website of Impact Frontiers. And so all of that work can be found there. And there was an array of consensus building that led to the publishing of those norms. But also in 2018, the Impact Management Project expanded its remit of facilitation to also working with leading standard setters and providers of frameworks and guidance for managing sustainability impacts, which has a very crucial link to where the platform is today. And so together, that initial group of organizations recognized that there is a system that needs to be clarified for practitioners in terms of how do these organizations work together, and how does their content really sit within this system. And so that is the launch period, if you will, of that collective work. Back to the consensus building work of the Impact Management Project, it was continuing to develop the norms and also embed that into practitioners' own work. It was also incubating two key initiatives, one being Impact Frontiers, who I just mentioned, that is a learning collaboration for investors to improve impact management practices, and really embed that into their own work. And also the Impact Alliance, which developed a self-classification tool called the Impact Classification System, and that is now being developed under the Global Impact Investing Network. I'm going back again to the work of the Structured Network, which at the time that the Impact Management Project was in operation, there was a lot of movement in the disclosure landscape. And many of you may remember what was the Group of Five, which was the leading standard setters for disclosure, that were coming together to launch a vision and associated content related to a comprehensive corporate reporting system, which was designed to really inform the development of global sustainability standards, notably the IFRS Foundation, which launched the ISSB in November of last year, and the Impact Management Project was providing project management support to the launch of that. So that's where those two initiatives are tied. And as I said, a lot of movement in the disclosure landscape, as many of you I'm sure recognize, and that is a very important piece, but it's not the only part of impact management. And so the impact management platform itself was launched following the planned conclusion of the Impact Management Project. The platform was launched with the partners themselves recognizing that more work to clarify the system was needed to be done, and could only be done so through a coordinated approach. And so that is why the Impact Management Platform looks at practice as well as benchmarking and disclosure as well. So that full suite, if you will, of impact management actions. But concretely, what does this mean, and how are the partners themselves really doing what they say they want to do, and working together towards this aspect of mainstreaming and clarification. So their work program has been structured around 4 key areas, which I'll just list off very, very quickly, but we're very happy to provide further information on each of these as we reconvene with you all as market building organizations. So the first one is around the actions and landscape of impact management. So really providing that consensus view from the platform partners themselves as to what are the different steps involved.
Sorry, Jo, you're on mute right now.
That was strange. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. So I was just saying that the actions of impact management are there to really clarify what is involved and what are the resources to support that practice. And this is to enable all types of practitioners across organizations, investors, and financial institutions. The next work stream is around interoperability. So addressing the current content of the platform partners and looking at ways to make that content more interoperable, whilst also encouraging partners and facilitating efforts to conduct project work together and release pipeline content alongside each other, so as to better improve the interoperability of that content. And also within that, there's a lot of work being done around key concepts and terminology and how they can be consolidated and also embedded into the existing partner work. There is a research and development agenda that the partners themselves got together around and agreed the most important priorities there, and are now launching working groups to address those different areas, spanning from nomenclature of sustainability topics to the role of data and digitization when facilitating better flows of sustainability information. And finally, there's a policy engagement work stream, which is to really ensure that where partners are involved in different policy channels, or even sometimes leading on those policy channels, that the relevant information is fed back to the partners as a group, but the partners themselves can also discuss what are their key priority areas with regards to these different initiatives, and perhaps sometimes feedback common messages to those as well, to enable a better flow of information, flow of dialogue that is spoke with a collective voice. One word very quickly on the platform website. I mean, all organizations have a website, and obviously a part of the platform's website is to really explain what the collaboration itself does, but most crucially, it is there to house this collective guidance that comes from the platform partners. So all of those work streams that I just mentioned will all have different deliverables that the partners themselves are working towards, and they will all be pushed out through the website itself as very much a tool with which practitioners to engage. And that really is practitioners of all types. As I said, this isn't just about the investment landscape or just about the corporate landscape. This is extending as far and wide as possible, with that notion of mainstreaming the practice of impact management, and as a result also there to inform policymakers and regulators. So a lot of content is yet to be released as the platform partners are working together. But currently we have a set of the first iteration of the actions and landscape of impact management for organizations and also investors and financial institutions. And another piece of work that has more recently been published on the website is a summary of common messages across partner responses to the ISSB's consultation on its general requirements exposure draft. So where any of the partners submitted individual responses to the consultation, or in collaboration with other partners, we invited them to get together to share what were their high-level messages in response to those the consultation, so that a summary of those common viewpoints could be shared under the collective of the platform itself. I'm moving on swiftly just to talk about a little bit about target audiences. As I said, this is intended to be very much for everybody, but we still have identified some key target audiences that we just wanted to share with you, because Market Builders as a collection of organizations is a very key part of that. So the platform, as you know, has a set of deliverables around clarifying the impact management actions, looking at specific sustainability issues, and clarifying key concepts and how they relate to each other. And that is for the benefit of, well, one being the partners themselves, and also a broader set of norm builders or even standard setters that are looking at specific sectors or issue areas, so that these deliverables can be embedded into their own work, and their resources that then are fed back to practitioners, which obviously increases interoperability and improves what we hope to be the quality and uptake of resources as a result. Another target audience is obviously our market builders, who we identify as industry associations, think tanks, service providers, academia, those that are looking to really work with practitioners to improve their impact management practices, and ensure that there is and ensure good alignment with guidance that is coming from organizations such as the platform partners. And so that is why we're very much opening up this mutual line of collaboration here between the platform and the market builders to embed platform guidance into the resources of the market builders where that is applicable, and also disseminate that content more broadly among their own communities of practice. Again, this is all about better interoperability, better clarity for practitioners, and thereby also improving the uptake of these resources so as to progress the element of mainstreaming this as a practice. And then finally, obviously, practitioners is a very key target audience, which ranges across different groups. They themselves want to better understand what is this system of standards and guidance, and also how that can be applied to their own impact management practices. And finally, what is the end goal of this? I mean, ultimately, I think the partners themselves are getting around the notion that with improved practices across different groups, we are looking to provide more information that will benefit the well-being of people and planet. So it was very important that we had this as the kind of the ultimate goal here. So that's the context section, and I will now hand back to Gabby to talk about the market builder approach.
Sure, thank you, Jo. If we could have the next slide, please. So there's a very important relationship between these different groups within the platform, and specifically between partners and practitioners. So we have the partners who develop collective guidance shared via the platform, and they convey this to the practitioners via their own channels and outputs. And practitioners refer to platform guidance and use this guidance for their own impact management processes. And they also provide feedback to inform future platform work as well. And then if we can go to the next. Yep. So obviously another very important component of this matrix is the link between the partners and the market builders that are working together to improve alignment. So the partners develop the collective guidance with input from the market builders and convey and discuss via dedicated exchanges, for example, regular calls, the biannual calls, which we'll get to soon. Market builders, on the other hand, they use platform outputs and they work with the platform to further improve awareness and alignment across practitioners. So this could, one way of looking at this is as a ripple effect, where the market builders are helping to amplify the reach of best practices across different communities beyond just what the partners are doing amongst themselves. Thanks, Jo. Next slide. So, proposed methods of market builder engagement. It's hopefully now clear why we're looking to open up lines of mutual engagement with lots of different types of market building organizations with who have different audiences in order to encourage alignment and build awareness of best practices in impact management across a range of sectors and disciplines and geographies. So first of all, keeping abreast of each other's work and progress. So there'll be a market builder distribution list, which means that as and when we get updates that are important for you and your constituents, we'll share these in an email with you all. Additionally, there'll be biannual dedicated market builder calls, such as this one, our first ever, which will be an opportunity to converse on the work that has recently been published, as well as give you an insight into the work that's coming up and answer any questions that you may have. Further to that point, I also want to say that we very much welcome your updates and the sharing of your opportunities with us, and can also foster some collaboration amongst the market builders. So point number 2, contributing to the platform's work. There'll be opportunities to provide feedback on content, both how you as market builders engage with this content, but also how your constituents engage and use this content. And this actually links to a piece of work that we're currently focusing on that Corinne will take you through later in this call. Number 3, promoting the work of the platform. So we see market builders as really key to promoting best practices across the different geographies and sectors and disciplines. And we really want to work with organizations such as yourselves in order to give you the right content so that you can do that. And so that you have the messages that that the practitioners are needing in order to improve their work and their understanding of impact management. And so as such, where there are opportunities to align your content with the common guidance of the partners, this is great, and equally will provide you with different communications, toolkits and materials so that you're equipped to talk about this with your constituents. And I will hand it over to Corinne now for the next section.
Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Joe. And thank you to all who've joined today. It's, as Joe's saying, it's lovely to see so many around the table and some familiar faces as well. But for those maybe less familiar, so I'm Corinne Abb with the UNEP Finance Initiative, so one of the 2 co-chairing organisations for the platform at the moment. My role within UNEP-FI, apart from obviously supporting the facilitation of the platform, is to be the SDG and Impact Management Lead at UNEP-FI, which is a collaboration between United Nations and the global network of commercial financial institutions, banks and insurance companies in particular. So just wanted to give a bit of a zoom on what a specific opportunity to engage might look like, building on some of the backgrounds that Joe provided. So Joe showed you a little bit what, where the platform came from. So basically that structured network that the Impact Management Project initially set up. So very important, I think, for us as a collective of institutions to continue that work. And just want to give you a bit of a sense of where we're going next, but we will be focusing on one specific area after that, which is the actions and landscape. And perhaps if I can have the next part of this slide, Joe, thanks. So launch of the platform itself, so us deciding to basically self-facilitate and maintain this work and actually take it further. That was end of last year. Since then, a few things have already happened. So at launch, the consensual view of what the actions of impact management look like for organizations was released. And earlier this year, we followed up on that with a specific version of that speaks to investors and financial institutions. And I said this is what we'll be focusing on a little bit more because it's also the more consolidated part of our work. But just so you get a sense of some of the other things that have also happened and what we'd love to exchange with you as well going forward. So here's a piece that speaks more to our, let's say, engagement and our policy engagement work. So there has been a common, let's say, set of messages that were compiled following exchanges among the partners, responding to the exposure drafts of the ISSB, in particular the one on general requirements. As you can see, that follows on quite closely the transition of former platform members being consolidated into the IFRS and the IFRS becoming a platform observer. Other such common messages are expected vis-a-vis other processes. So that's I guess just a first example. If we move on with the timeline, other areas of focus. So this is the continuation, let's say, of the actions and landscape and what we want to engage you on. This is material, this consensus view is, of course, material that's live rather than static, set once and for all, as we try to refine, that explanation and that consensus of what the actions of impact management look like. So, and we'd like to engage you on that. So that's something we're hoping to iterate for let's say the first half of next year. In parallel to that, what's also starting at the moment is, as Joe mentioned, we have an R&D agenda, and some of the first working groups within that are kicking off, in particular around the nomenclature of sustainability issues and what kind of lies behind those different nomenclatures, and what they ultimately will help us to understand in terms of also the indicators, the measurement systems and approaches that are used, and how effectively we can better, let's say, make some of those approaches consistent or interoperable within, amongst each other. So it's some quite, let's say, foundational work that started. Other than that, just a couple of other things to highlight. And again, we will be looking forward to input on all of these topics going forward. The other aspect is revision of key concepts and terminology. You might have noticed there's already a section on the platform website that contains key concepts and terminology. Again, this is live material, and our sense is there is still further consolidation around that, and so we started a process for that. And then finally, you're seeing a system map, which is actually quite closely tied in with the actions and landscape. The landscapes that we refer to is, of course, kind of identifying what the different resources, frameworks, tools, guidance are that exist and that work for different audiences, basically. That works at the moment as mostly as a database. We want to complement that with more of a system map that enables different audiences to see the different pieces of the puzzle more at a glance in an easier to, or a different format, let's say, to complement what they have. So that's just to give you an overview of things coming up, and that will be hopefully helpful just in the first instance to see kind of the emerging consensus among the the organizations around the table, but also areas where your reactions, your input, and your support in also further communicating some of this material would be much appreciated. As I said, would like to very much focus though specifically on the actions and landscape, since that is perhaps the first area in which we could very concretely work together. So as a reminder, there are two, let's say, separate sets explained earlier on. Those were released sequentially. Both of them are effectively trying to give a high-level explanation of what are the different components and constitutive parts of impact management, and to give a brief description of that, and then point practitioners and other stakeholders to the resources that exist to actually proceed with implementation. So the actions are not in themselves an implementation tool. They are a high-level explanation of what is meant by impact management, what are different elements and constitutive parts of that, and then where are the resources and where are also some of the gaps for that. So this is the, you'll probably recognize these visuals if you've been to the website. If we move onto the next slide, to clarify again in terms of some of our objectives in terms of the review process, it is to make sure in the first instance that our objectives with the actions and that that the landscapes of the resource list that goes with the explanations of the actions is actually clear. As said, the idea is not to replace implementation materials and resources, but to give that high-level view of what impact management is, and then to direct towards implementation resources. So we want to make sure that these objectives are clearly conveyed, and that the notion that we are trying to build a consensus view that will bring together practice, disclosure, benchmarking, finance, corporate, but then also, let's say, perhaps very specialized areas of finance and specialized areas of corporate activity, such as impact investing or social enterprises, to also cover the other end of the spectrum. So very mainstream organizations that maybe traditionally would not have associated with impact management, and to really make it clear that impact management is something that is relevant and necessary for everyone. And so we really want to, you know, cross-check whether this objective is coming through clearly. And then other than that, of course, the objective of our review process is to see whether what is up there is fit for purpose. So is it actually effective in providing that overview of what impact management means? Is it effective in drawing attention to the relevant resources for different parts of the process, for different communities, for different practitioner audiences? And then, of course, what we very much like to hear back as well is how we can further consolidate the content, how it can be further improved, since it is quite a novel effort to have, you know, such a broad range of use cases trying to build consensus, let's say at the high level. In practice, how we intend to do that, and how we propose to do this, and is a fairly simple, hopefully, process, whereby initially we really want to just collect as much input and feedback as possible from a variety of different audiences, including yourselves as a very important component of that. And so in Q3 we have been consolidating a series of questions, surveys, consultation material to enable us to do that. And then towards the end of the year, we're hoping to collate and ponder and analyze the feedback that we receive, whether, you know, online, whether through discussions, so that early next year we can implement the changes that appear to be necessary. And moving on from here, so what specifically we'll be trying to get further views on, as said, is, you know, you kind of the level of current awareness and usage of the actions and landscape of impact management. We'd love to also hear back on, you know, the level of alignment and consensus around what is outlined in the actions, and as said before, understand that the further development needs. Let's say practical mechanism for that, as said, you know, have been building surveys, consultation material. So we do want to take advantage of discussions like the one today to get feedback, or organize others, of course. But there'll also be just an easy to use online survey. There's a version that we thought we'd tailor a little bit to different audiences. So we have a version for yourselves that perhaps, you know, has a slightly longer set of questions, and then for practitioners a slightly smaller version. We'd love for you to support us on both ends, so having your direct feedback would be hugely appreciated. Any help you can provide in terms of also getting practitioners, a greater number of practitioners to input on the material, would also be helpful. And so you see there's a point there in terms of you know, us making material available to you to kind of go alongside the surveys to give the background to any practitioners where the survey would be forwarded, so that it's clear to them what the background is. So that's effectively what we're proposing for now. And Joe, at this point, we're ready for an open discussion.